Sam and Ben Monthly Retro.
Hello and welcome to episode 3. Ben and I cover two topics today. The first of those is brand activation. Parabola and Ben are about to launch their new brand and website, and we talk about how to do successful brand activation, how not to just make it about yourselves, but things that your customers care about. And the second topic we talk about is paid marketing and B2B, why it's changed significantly over the last year, what's tougher, and how to be successful at it. Enjoy. There we go. Ben Pollock, Sam Viskovich, episode number 3. Is 3 a charm? Is this going to be the best one so far, Ben?
You know, all you can ask for is small but steady improvements, and that's the route to optimization. So I can pretty much guarantee this will be the best one yet.
There we go. And is that the theme marketing-wise this month? Small but steady improvements?
So yes and no. Like, this is something I actually go back and forth on. The route to optimizing your go-to-market is small but steady improvements, but you need to take big bets to drive step function increase. So I think it's a balance of like, this is how we'll slowly but surely find our way there. And then like, these are more out of the ordinary bets that could have asymmetric big time results if they, work in our favor. And so I think it's definitely a balance, but mostly yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we start on the big bets then? We've started the last 2 episodes with the big bet around brand. Give us a quick update of how that's going. And I guess now we can talk about how you're thinking of activating the brand or new brand.
Yeah, for sure. And I apologize in advance for all the listeners out there. I have a puppy here who just wants my attention. So if you hear some barking, it's not Sam. It's my dog. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah.
So I think last time
that's why we keep video, just so people can.
Yeah, for sure. Just so no one gets confused. Yeah, so I think last time we caught up, we were about like halfway, a little more than halfway through our rebrand and our repositioning. We are getting much closer to the end there. We're hoping to launch closer to the end of April. Things are moving really well. I think it's a really interesting time for us where we're trying to balance continuing to drive go-to-market for the team today, but also planning for a huge launch, which if any marketers out there have done a rebrand and a repositioning with a new website, every nook and cranny, every surface, every redirect, it's incredibly in the weeds and need to be super detail oriented. All that to say, team is extremely psyched and energized. We have a lot to do in the next 3 or 4 weeks to get ourselves in a position to be ready to launch, but really happy with the outcome of the work. And to your latter point, and I know this is something that we discuss, as you see my dog playing with a rope in the background, a common faux pas that we are not falling into here at Parabola is rebrands are really exciting for the business, right? You're changing your whole website, you're changing the way you speak about yourselves, changing a lot of different elements of the core biz. That's interesting to you. That's exciting to you at your company. What makes that more interesting for a prospect? Why should they care now when they didn't before? Is there a net new offering? Is there some type of campaign this is being coupled with to drive awareness? Not leaning into like the so what, why this matters, how you can get involved in that go-to-market for that brand is a huge faux pas, I think, overall. And that's also on our mind is like, how do we activate this brand throughout all of the channels where possible to get as big of an impact as we can?
So first question, so things are on track overall? Like it looks like you'll launch, like next episode, it should be launched?
Next episode, it will be launched for sure. We've had to push back the date a couple times, but I'm drawing a hard line. No, but in all seriousness, next episode, beginning of May, this time we should be launched and rocking. So we'll have some fun stuff to share. Yeah.
Nice, very cool. Maybe we'll do a screen share for that. Okay, and then brand activation. So I mean, you're not one to celebrate and talk about yourself too much. So I wouldn't.
Is that facetious? Is that a sarcastic comment?
That might have been smirking. I couldn't help it. But no, I think it's a good point on brand activation. Like, the so what? Like, do your customers really care that you change some colors and some images? I know it's more than that. But so how are you thinking about the brand activation, or more importantly, like, have you delayed certain brand activities until you have finished this project?
Yes, to both of those, big time across the board. I want to speak first to the latter, and then I'll talk about at a high level how we're planning to activate without giving too much away. We've delayed a lot of like motions that we probably should have started earlier on because we didn't have a strong brand surface to like accurately communicate and create. So just as like an example, Parabola is a horizontally positioned product. We need to continue to lean into like our product marketing, our verticalized messaging, whatever that might be. We've had like a limited surface and medium through which we can do that, which has been challenging for us. And so if we wanted to, we think this persona or this use case is really interesting. We're still early stage, so we're still figuring some of that stuff out. The way that we would activate that and market is like there was no like concrete surface for us where we could really lean into that. Penny, sorry, y'all. And I think ultimately, the medium and the surface here is going to really unlock our ability to both communicate with and get in front of customers and prospects at scale. So when you say like, are there brand activities that have been limiting for you? Like, absolutely, across the board. Just starting with something as simple as like creating a kick-ass website page, all the way through something that's broader, multi-channel that extends across different mediums and channels. So excited for that. And on the activation piece, ideally, you can like couple some huge product or feature update with your brand release. And that timing can be difficult. At my previous job at ChartHop, where I was running growth, as we were scaling, we did a huge rebrand. We launched a free product. So we coupled like, this is free now. You can have like a limited light version of ChartHop in perpetuity. And it's in the context of the rebrand. That was the so what, right? Which was like a really important message that drove acquisition and growth. We've released a lot on the product side in Q1 at Parabola. There's, from a timing perspective, like nothing is perfectly working out to be like, this is the new feature. Like, take a look. It's so relevant and powerful for you. So I think ultimately for us, it's about how we get creative on offering, what are all the feature updates we've made and how do we group those into a broader update into our platform? How do we pair those feature updates with like, again, broader updates around our new nomenclature, how we speak about ourselves, like why this matters, and like what are some of those, new platform updates that might benefit the customer or prospect. So that's half of it, I'd say, or like less than half is like we're trying to like summarize a lot of our amazing progress on the product and like put it in a really clean, digestible box that like makes a ton of sense. So folks don't have to like piecemeal all the updates we've made over the past 6 months. So that's one. The second, I'm going to be a little bit like enigmatic on because I don't want to give it away quite yet.
Okay.
Every buyer in every space purchases differently. The way they procure products, the way they learn, the way they build trust. In every space, word of mouth is super important. I think everyone knows that. In the space that we sell into brands like retail, e-com brands. It's extremely important. So what we've been thinking is like, how do we catalyze like evangelists, natural word of mouth to start like operating at a higher clip with more velocity and more energy without being super self-serving of like, Parabola, that's definitely not the message we want to spearhead out into the market. It's more so like all these folks are engaging with our brand. They're aligning with it. When they align with our brand, naturally anyone in their network will have that affinity of like, I trust that person. They've been talking about this. They've been looped in on some of their programs. How do I get involved? Like it piques that curiosity. So the biggest undertapped distribution source for marketers is just building a really strong customer bench and evangelist bench and helping them help you. So at a high level, we're putting together a very creative campaign that's going to be coupled with a couple new mediums through which we'll be offering some networking and other types of programming. And instead of talking about Parabola in this campaign, we're talking about our ICP. And it's all centered around what they're doing, how they found success with like very light touches to how tools like Parabola can help aid in that success. But it's like in no way super direct product marketing, but much looser, giving evangelists a really strong message that they'll align with. And in turn, they'll also be softly promoting Parabola awareness. And so that's a motion we're going to take a big swing on with our launch. And then we'll certainly be keeping that going and take more swings on throughout the rest of the year.
I think I got it without you giving too many details. But pretty much what you're saying is, catch some of that water drop. Look
at the condensation on this.
I know, that was crazy. I thought it was like a glitch.
65 degrees today in New York, Sam. So,
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. And you're in London right now.
I am. So three recordings, 3 different locations.
Yeah, not for me, just for you.
Let's have a look. What is the temperature today? But it's
cold.
I don't think it's
cold and gray if we're in London. Yeah.
Essentially. So, in short, what you're saying, like word of mouth is probably the highest leverage activity that a marketer can do. Your goal is like, okay, which time this post I'll launch where I'm messaging is as clear as it's ever been.
Yeah. How do I say this without shitting on paid marketers everywhere? Because as we know, Sam, in our early days of getting to know each other, we were spending $250K on AdWords a month with an incredible lead gen engine that absolutely boosted that business to double-digit million ARR. That's awesome. Paid levers are great, and you should invest in them. But if you really zoom out and you look at both top-of-funnel acquisition, like how you're generating new meetings, and how well those meetings convert through the funnel, operationalizing evangelists and empowering them to champion for you at scale, the unit econ is a lot better unless you just have a crazy dialed paid machine. Parabola has a lot of folks that root for us. They're willing and they want to speak publicly, but like we're not going to ask them like, hey, post about Parabola. Like give them something that makes sense, that feels good and feels authentic and right to them, right? And so we're helping them lean into that. And in turn, I think they'll be excited to promote, to link themselves to other amazing operators who are doing the same, and ultimately to a business that I also think is pretty damn cool. And hopefully that gives them a little bit of like professional growth as well.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. I guess we can catch up in future episodes and see how that goes. But I agree, like getting evangelists to do the marketing for you and getting your customers to do the marketing for you is always the holy grail. And I'll also shit on paid marketing as a paid marketer. Like it's tough right now. It's like to do the same things that we did a few years ago. I don't think you really can.
Yeah, and I'll give you just like a small example. I'll give you a small example of something that happened this week. We've been trying a lot of different paid campaigns, and like some of them have worked really well. We've generated some deals. Some of them haven't. That's the name of the game. We had a really strong lead come in, and that deal closed in a month or less. And it's a great brand that we're really excited about. We're like, oh, how'd they find us? How'd they find us? Was it paid? Because they said they heard on LinkedIn, like, wow, like what ad was it? And like what we learned, it was just like one of our angel investors who's deep in the space just like mentioned us. And so they then checked us out on LinkedIn, saw a couple of our founders' posts, which we've been actively doing some thought leadership on. And then when they said we heard through LinkedIn instead of like this person that referred them, but truly it was that person. So we're over here hypothesizing and cranking away at paid optimization, which is important, which we'll continue to do, just to have like the most simple, quick deal just come through so immediately because someone we trust is also someone this brand trusts and just referred us. So again, it's like, that's awesome, but that's not a predictable lever that you can be like, cool, in Q2, we'll just do more of those unlike paid, where you could be like, we're going to spend more at a cheaper cost of acquisition, and that's how we'll grow. So it's really like, how do you scientifically operationalize that person to do that more often as much as possible?
Got it. That makes sense. We could touch on the paid thing, but I think to wrap this part up, website projects on track, big brand activation activity after. And I think like traditionally brand activation post rebrand is like either talk about ourselves and identity, or, make a big announcement maybe about the product, or then the third option almost is try and say like, hey, look at the new Utter, or look at the new Parabola, which you mix a bit of both. And it sounds like you'll probably try and do like the latter one where the product features are like the Trojan horse, but as you're doing it, you're like, oh, wow, it's a nice looking Trojan horse. Yeah.
We're very much not like the last thing the last thing we'll say in our message will be, look at us, it's new, it's bright, it's colorful, it's clear. It's more so, look at what we're offering you, look at what we can provide. And in the process, check out our cool shit, right? So we know that folks will be captivated by some of our new language, messaging, imagery, design, whatever it might be. So it's just, how do you like pique their interest to that in a softer way that's not, look at us, we're so special and we're new.
Yeah, cool. Should we chat about? Do you want to chat about paid briefly? Just since we were talking about it.
Yeah, let's chat about paid.
Like,
what are you seeing in paid right now, Sam?
Yeah, I think paid marketing in B2B is like, if you don't change, you're kind of screwed. And I think this mindset's come more and more in the last 6 months to a year. Like, we've talked about this before, but like traditionally everyone's trying to fight for the people that are in buying cycle. The problem, no one's in buying cycle. And the problem is that on top of that is that majority of people, when they come to buy, are going to purchase from someone that they've already heard about. So for us, we're evangelizing what I can't say that word, but for us, we're advocating, what I call performance branding. It's like, how do you do awareness-based advertising where you see incremental lift that comes inbound rather than relying on these traditional conversion lead generation routes? And
totally.
To give something anecdotally, it's like 85% of LinkedIn's traffic or ad traffic is on mobile. Like, you can get people to fill out forms via mobile, but it's just such a hard conversion path, and you pay more on a CPM basis versus like serving ads as much as possible and seeing the lift. It's a much harder thing to have internally. But anyway, So those are a couple of candid thoughts on the state and my hypothesis of what.
I so agree with a couple like maybe hot take caveats.
Hot takes.
Like, here's what I think. Ultimately, if you're just running request a demo, like direct response ads to a cold audience, the only way you'll find success is if you've absolutely freaking nailed it to a T 100%. And even if you have, you might not find success. And I'll give you an example of something of like an ad for me that like might nail, like have hit me, but like I didn't convert. Attribution is really hard. We have some like decent attribution flows from working with the other RevOps team, but it's always a struggle. First touch, last touch. And we're thinking a lot about that as we like think about our target account approach, how we define source, all that jazz. So that's a problem in everyone's mind. And there was a company that served me an ad that hit me to my core, which is like, are you spending your Monday mornings like re-looking through your automated attribution and probably making more changes than you want? Like, you need 100%. That's what we're doing. But I'd never heard of the company. I'd like never even seen them. And, being pretty ingrained in the space, like, scroll. Right. So they nailed it for me. But like, I'd never heard of them. I had zero awareness. They were serving me a demo ad, no social proof. So I just scrolled through it. We've been guilty of this a little bit at Parabola. And one of the reasons is we have nailed it in some adverts and some campaigns. Like, there are a few campaigns for us that just work. And so as we've leaned into that further, trying to be super efficient with our spend, because we're ultimately judged on cost of acquisition from our paid channels, we've leaned into that more and more, almost got a little greedy, I think. Yeah. And so now we're at the point where we didn't have a great brand, right? And we didn't have a super strong website because we've been redoing that, as we mentioned. And so through that, we're not pushing out a lot of, and we just brought on an amazing content hire, and she's been here for 2 months. So we don't have an amazingly strong brand. Our messaging and positioning is a little bit lackluster. We don't have a ton of content to promote top of funnel. So yeah, let's just serve demo ads. And like over the course of the quarter, like performance spiked and then slowly increased for us. So we're totally revamping in Q2. And here's what it looks like. Paid search, we have demonstrated that we can require leads and turn them into opportunities. But it turns out in our space, like there's really not great bidding opportunity for us. Like, we've been bidding on a couple horizontally oriented tools. And while we're getting amazing leads, like they're not brands, they're similar titles at like other companies who we're not trying to serve right now. So we're just like, screw it, cut the spend. Like, let's not focus on this right now instead of continuing to iterate this into oblivion. So focusing mostly on paid search. In Q1, like 95% of our budget was dedicated towards cold audience lead gen. And again, like for us, like the unit econ there isn't bad, and it actually improved a lot quarter over quarter. So seeing those signs of success, it's hard to like lean away from that a little bit, but sometimes you do need to step back to like re-accelerate some of that motion. So, we'll probably do something more like a 75-25 lead gen to brand split. we've been testing some thought leadership ads on thought leadership posts on organic social from our CEO. We're going to be starting to boost some of those posts in addition to some other content that we're creating to just start generating some awareness. Remarket anyone off of those posts dynamically into a more like demo-centric ad. That could be a conversation ad, that could be a sponsored content ad. So instead of just starting with the latter, goal is serve that cold audience that's still ICP aligned with just higher level content, case studies, thought leadership, and then dynamically retarget them through the funnel and start serving them those like more direct response CTA centric ads. To me, this should drive two things. One, that general lift over time based on brand performance marketing, to your point. And two, that cold audience that we've been struggling with, it's no longer cold, it's warm. It's 100%. Like anyone that we're serving those demo ads to are very much going to be like remarketed. So I'm confident in that split, in that motion. I guarantee you we will not get it right. And in our next episode, I will say, yeah, it was a good step in the right direction. We saw a lot of success. And here's how we're continuing to iterate further. In the beginning of our talk, we had spoken about like small but steady iterations versus like bigger swings. We've been doing a lot of small and steady iterations. And at a certain point, if those small and steady iterations like aren't moving the needle for you, you have to take a step back and be like, what the hell are we doing here? And just revamp with strong hypotheses on why isn't this working as much as we believe it to be? Cool. What are those problem statements? Well, let's take bets to concretely address those. One of the biggest ones for us is just serving ads to a cold audience is going to always have a lackluster response. So we're testing directly that hypothesis right now as we speak.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think like to summarize, it's lead generation advertising. It's always part of the mix, and maybe I was a bit Armageddon when I first set it. But yes, it's always part of the lead generation. Is always part of the mix advertising. But B2B paid marketers have to do more brand related stuff now because the old habit of like get someone a lead, get an SDR to talk to them, the ability to convince is harder because buying cycles are tighter.
Totally.
Right now,
and I'll give you one more example too. Also, I'm playing tug of war with my dog with my foot. With my 1-year-old.
I thought you were going to say like with the sales leader or something.
No. We play tug of war on different things, but it's not with a rope and it's not with my foot. I love our sales leader, who's my very good friend and peer here at Parabola. So yeah, like here's another way I think about it too. This is a natural motion. We started seeing paid success, getting ops on the board. The marketing team's like, woohoo, paid ops, let's go. Cost per op is good. And the sales team's like, I'm qualifying all these out, right? And if you look at conversion rates through the funnel for paid versus organic's always going to be stronger. So if you just like do the math, in theory, like let's just say your cost per op is $1,000, like paid lead gen cost per op.
Yeah. So
you spend $1,000 on LinkedIn to generate one opportunity. That could look something like you have a demo request at $300 and you convert one of three of them to an opportunity. So cost per op is $1,000 or something like that, right? And then let's just say that those ops convert at 10 to 15% through the funnel. So you can imagine your cost of acquisition, if it's 10%, is going to be like 10K to get that customer. On the flip side, let's just say like you switched that model a little bit and you spent more on organic and you saw over time a lift in organic inbound because you're doing more brand performance marketing. Your cost of acquisition is probably going to go up because it's less like direct response. But over time, if the organic conversion rate is double that of paid, like think about like ultimately what does it cost you to acquire that customer? I guarantee you that the organic funnel is going to be healthier, and it probably makes more sense to like put more effort into generating inbound for that funnel specifically. All that said, the biggest piece here that I can't emphasize enough, paid marketing doesn't necessarily compound, like lead gen wise. Spend this much, get a lead, then you work them. Brand marketing, it does. Like every time you run a branded ad and someone sees it, that's one touch point. It's a second touch point. It's a third touch point. And all of a sudden, like you're building groundswell and brand awareness that absolutely compounds over time. So regardless of the funnel outcome, brand is the gift that keeps on giving. It grows over time. Paid marketing, performance for lead gen specific stuff is going to be a little bit more input output. It's so important that you have those levers as you scale, but it's not something that you should like rely on end of day to like continue to grow the business.
Right. Yeah, I think and maybe just to labor on this point slightly more, because people don't talk about the mechanics. Like if you're not a paid marketer, you're like, they're both ads, right? Like what's going on here? I think what you're saying is like the lead generation ad, for example, the platform's optimizing based on who they think will take action. And so more people are bidding to serve ads to those people, which means that the cost per impression is of magnitude higher. And so impression based, it's like you're pretty much what's happening is you're getting more chances to serve your ad for the same dollars, which means there's more chance of something resonating there. I think mechanic wise.
Totally. And one more point on that is when running branded ads, like again, not lead gen, like they're both paid to your point, but one of them is very much, we just want to get awareness with our ICP. And the other is like, no, we're going to measure the success of this campaign based on the cost per click, cost per lead, and cost per op. On the former, as my dog plays with her toy behind me, I kind of ultimately think that the best way to activate that like paid brand performance is with a really specific ICP. And I'm almost I see like the back end of LinkedIn in my head. Good God, this is almost disappointing for me as a human being. So be it, here we are. And you think about like audience size, and like I'm imagining like these branded campaigns like are so specific for us. Companies 50 to 500 employees with 2 or 3 specific titles at like 1 to 3 sub retail industries, which for us would be like food and bev, apparel, consumer durables. It's probably an audience of like 15 to 30,000 people, all of whom our sales team would be dying to get in front of. Versus you make that way broader, and all of a sudden like you're spending branded dollars in a less concentrated way to a more disparate version of your ICP. You won't feel that lift because it's kind of scattered and broad and it's not really tight, versus like, this is our key audience, exactly who we want to be building brand. And this branded message is absolutely going to resonate with them. So it's really focused on like what we call internally, like boil the lake, not the ocean, or boil the pond before you try to boil your whole pan.
Yeah, I thought you said boy in the pond. I was like, I don't get that. Boil.
I feel like that's a classic Kiwi thing, because Kiwis are always like good. You know, it's just like boy school. I feel like that's like you were like the head boy, the deputy head boy in high school, right, Sam?
Yeah, we call everyone a boy. And I also make up sayings, so the combination, I'm like, oh, boy in the pond.
Yeah, like makes sense. Totally makes sense. I also speak quickly, you know, and so I feel like every other word of mine is audible or not, depending on the morning and how much caffeine I've had.
You're very clear. You're very clear, and there's plenty of caffeine.
Thank you.
Running through you today. Yeah, and I think one thing, like maybe we've seen tests, we're running these performance branding tests, I'll call them, is we've done like A/B, like account lists where we'll test certain accounts and upload and do awareness, or we'll try certain geographies and we'll see the incrementalism. And you can run smaller tests and see like what works before expanding. So just one tidbit for people out there.
You're running the test on the account-based list before doing like the broader.
So example, like say you've got 500 accounts, split it into, give us 250, do awareness advertising to that 250 and see what the lift is of that 250 inbound versus the other 250. But yeah, like we did a test recently with a pretty well-known company, and it was like 500 of their core accounts. And after we did awareness advertising to them, the rate of which they can inbound in general was 2x, and it was their core account. Same with geography. Yeah, we compare like certain cities. Usually you get like a 2 to 3x, like 4x, whatever. So.
And honestly, the last thing I'll say on that too is just folks often forget that when running demographic, firmographic focused ads on LinkedIn, like if you really define the accounts, like let's just say like you chop that up, like you'd expect there to be like these 500 accounts like in that list based on the firmographic parameters you put in. If you actually look, what you can on the back end of LinkedIn of like who this is actually serving to, you'd be surprised at how wacky and not aligned a lot of those accounts are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of funky algorithmic things where LinkedIn's like, oh, this person, works here, and you've negged them because it's too small of a company, but they also work here. And so like, you're now serving ads to Chick-fil-A. And so there's a lot of like strange stuff that can happen. And so it's so important just to be really, really, really tight with either your account lists or the parameters, or just combing through those like back end information to keep those campaigns optimized.
Yeah, it's a complete buster when you look at like demographics. You're like, shit, I spent 10% of this.
Yeah, like, and the last thing I'll say on it, I could go on paid forever, but like, Parabola is really lucky to have a lot of amazing brands as clients. I'm trying to remember which ones I can 100% say. So like Flexport, Body Armor, Roan, Vuori, Chubbies, you go down the list. It's like these really cool hit brands, and like that, they're growing fast. They're interested in investing in cutting edge technology to help them scale because they're newer, kind of like modern brands, which for us is great. And then we looked at like the back end list of the accounts, and some of them were like John Smith's Catering Company LLC, based out of Idaho. Nothing wrong with that business. Nothing wrong with Idaho. Lovely state. Never been there. Hope to go. But like, that is a food and bev retail company that has at least 50 employees that we were targeting. Like, that's not exactly who we're trying to get in front of. And so it's just, again, so important to get that granular in some of your targeting.
Yeah. Food and bev is a particular nightmare on LinkedIn because you get like the service, the manufacturing, and anything in between. But
totally.
I know we're got a little bit of time. Maybe last thing we'll talk about, Ben, you slacked me on land and expand. I think that'd be one interesting thing if you could talk about that. What you're doing there. If you give me the Ben 2x cold brew speed version.
Okay, sounds good. I should probably go get my other coffee then, but it's on the other side of the room, and I'm going to keep rocking. So yeah, and like, I think really candidly, like a lot of software companies are still trying to figure out their motion post pandemic, post correction, wherever we are, and interest rates being slashed and budgets opening back up, all that good stuff. I've mentioned this a few times in the podcast. It's like, lean into what works, do the dumb thing, do the easy thing. Like, don't try to reinvent the wheel. If something's working for your business, just lean into that and do it more and do it better and take it to another level. So what we found is that we churn very few customers, if any. I don't know if we had like any significant logo churn over the past 12 months that was like meaningful. And not only do folks not churn, they grow. So a lot of those accounts I just mentioned started small. Over the past year, 2 years, have 5, 10, 15x. Because there's so much value, but we just need people to get in there. We just want customers to see it and feel it. Part of my job is demonstrating at a high level how that's done and making sure they're aware.
Whose job's that?
But hear me out. That's what they pay me to do. So hopefully I can reach that goal pretty soon. The rebrand's coming, like I said. So what we found is like, when customer gets on Parabola, they very rarely churn and almost always grow. Okay. We are having trouble closing enterprise deals because we're jumping through a ton of loops and we're trying to prove out different use cases with different teams. Okay. Yeah, we got some of those and they're awesome deals. That's cool. But like, what if we changed our pricing and packaging to just let folks get going on a smaller deal, knowing that our product and our team will take care of the rest? So you can go to our website right now. This is all public. We introduced what we would call like a teams plan. Before, we had a free plan, or like a solo plan, which is like an individual small license free, or like $50 a month, $80 a month. And then we had an enterprise plan, which is $20K plus. We introduced a new plan, which is somewhere in the middle. And it's just for your team. It's like 3 to 5 users, 3 to 5 flows, just getting you started for like 6 to 10K. As you might imagine, that sounds like a no-brainer. That's below the budget threshold for most orgs. That's like not a crazy amount of spend. And for the use cases that we're tackling, if we can help you solve it, you can pay that back in a day. There's a lot of really awesome, attractive use cases that we're leading into that very much do that. So we're like, let's try this new plan. Conversion rates skyrocketed. Folks are really excited to get involved. So it's great. Like, we've kind of like accomplished the first part of that motion, which is uptick in logo acquisition. And now the question for us is like, how do we also continue to just like provide them value and grow those accounts? And so I don't want to give up too much info there yet, but we're seeing some really awesome signs of success of just continuing to provide value, give folks really attractive upsell plans that make total sense for them and their business, or they can continue to grow incrementally and add users and add flows and do it the hard way. I see way too many, especially early stage orgs, like trying to cling to these enterprise deals, especially with some of my work with First Round. It's really hard. It's really hard. So like pricing and packaging can be a lever for you to land more deals, get more traction, and continue to grow them. It's really hard to attain X amount of ARR from net new logos. It's a lot easier to look at your existing customers and be like, where can we kind of, pull up who's having a lot of success and engagement on the platform. So I am so bullish and psyched on that motion for us. It's definitely still a work in progress, but that would be my word of advice, high level, to other marketers or sales teams out there in the early stage game. Lean into what like buying patterns or buying packages your customers want, acquire more customers and logos, and then find ways to continue to give them value over time so that you can let the contract then meet that value.
Beautiful. I feel like that's a nice snippet for LinkedIn to finish on.
Perfect. There you go. You're welcome.
We didn't cover everything we wanted to, but we got the main parts out. I think episode 3 summary here is that the big bet around brand, it's moving close to timeline. We've got activation coming that should help really propel growth efforts. We've got deep on paid. We both agree the landscape's changed a lot, and Parabola's managed to do pretty well in the traditional lead gen game, and now going to move into more brand advertising post the launch, and then land and expand, really just do more of what we've got, and that's like a cross-department, cross-functional team expanding, the ACV of existing customers. So
you got it. And a lot of those activation moments that I was talking about, where we're putting the ICP front and center and letting them talk about awesome stuff they're building or doing, it's also big time customer engagement. We already have some amazing evangelists. Give them the space and the medium to evangelize further. Like help them champion what they're doing and help them in that process champion you. So that would be my lasting message there.
There we go. Awesome.